There's a constant pull between two forces in your life. One side urges you to chase, to build, to achieve, to move forward, to accomplish, to create a life that looks successful from the outside. The voice of ambition tells you that fulfillment is just over the next horizon, in the next goal, in the next milestone. The other side whispers for stillness, for peace, for simply being. It calls you to stop, to breathe, to recognize that this moment, right now, is enough. And yet, these two forces seem to be in constant conflict. This is the human experience, the tension between movement and stillness, action and presence, doing and being. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to seek something outside ourselves. Success, validation, recognition, something to prove that we are enough. Society teaches us that fulfillment is found in achieving, manifesting, and creating. That if we just get the next thing, the next goal, the next success, the next breakthrough, we will finally feel complete. So we chase. We chase careers, relationships, wealth, status. We chase meaning, purpose, a life that feels important. We chase after the future, always looking ahead, hoping that the next thing will finally make us whole. But have you ever noticed that no matter how much you achieve, there's always something more? You tell yourself, once I get that job, then I'll feel successful. You get the job, but soon the feeling fades. Now it's, once I make more money, then I'll feel secure. The money comes, but the emptiness lingers. So you set another goal. You push harder. You achieve more. Yet somehow, you never quite arrive. Because the problem is not that you haven't achieved enough. The problem is the illusion that fulfillment is somewhere else. That if you just run fast enough, push hard enough, accomplish more, you will finally reach a place where you can stop and feel at peace. But peace isn't something you reach. It isn't waiting for you in the future. It isn't something you can chase. Because the truth is, real fulfillment doesn't come from running towards something. It comes from realizing you were never lacking to begin with. This is what Eckhart Tolle teaches. The power of now. The power of presence. The realization that everything you have been looking for has been within you all along. But most people never realize this. They are too busy moving, too busy thinking, too busy chasing, until one day they wake up and wonder, why do I still feel empty? And that is where the real journey begins. From the moment we enter this world, we are fed a story that says happiness is something to be earned, that fulfillment is something to be achieved, that peace is something to be found somewhere in the future, after we've done enough, after we've become enough, after we've proven ourselves worthy. This belief is everywhere. It's woven into the fabric of society, hidden in advertising, in self-improvement culture, in the way we measure success. We are told that more is better, more success, more possessions, more recognition. So we chase. We create vision boards filled with images of the life we dream of. We set goals, pushing ourselves to achieve more, to have more, to become more. We tell ourselves, once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I get the promotion, once I buy the house, once I find the perfect relationship. And sometimes we do get what we want. And for a brief moment, it feels like we've arrived. The new job, the bigger paycheck, the dream vacation, the moment of success, the fleeting rush of happiness. But then, almost immediately, the mind does something strange. It moves the goalpost. What's next? What else do I need? Why don't I feel as happy as I thought I would? The feeling fades, and instead of questioning the cycle itself, we assume the problem must be that we simply haven't achieved enough yet. So we set new goals. We push harder, we strive for the next thing. It becomes an endless treadmill, always moving, never arriving, because the truth is, desire never ends. The ego thrives on always wanting more. It is never satisfied. It is always looking for the next high, the next win, the next thing that will finally make everything feel complete. And yet, no matter how much we accomplish, the emptiness always finds a way to return. Have you ever noticed this? Have you ever spent months, maybe even years, working towards something, only to get there and feel underwhelmed, as if, despite everything, there's still something missing? This is because the mind has been conditioned to believe that fulfillment is always somewhere else, that peace isn't something you reach, it isn't waiting for you in the next milestone, it isn't hiding behind the next accomplishment. Because if peace isn't here now, it won't be there later. No amount of success, no amount of money, no perfect life situation will ever give you something that you haven't first found within yourself. This is why people who seem to have everything the wealth, the fame, the achievements, still feel lost? Why they still experience anxiety, depression, and a sense of incompleteness? Because fulfillment is not created by adding more to your life. If more was the answer, the wealthiest, most successful people in the world would be the most content. But they aren't, because contentment is not found in accumulation, it's found in awareness. And this is where Eckhart Tolle's wisdom becomes so powerful. He teaches that the search for fulfillment is what keeps you from fulfillment itself. The moment you believe that something external will complete you, you have already placed happiness outside of yourself. You have told yourself, I am not enough yet, and in that very thought, you separate yourself from peace. But what if you didn't need anything more? What if you were already whole, right now, as you are? What if the secret to fulfillment wasn't in chasing something outside of yourself, but in stopping the chase altogether? For most people, this idea is terrifying, because who are you without your striving, without your achievements, without the identity built on always needing to be more? This is why people stay trapped in the cycle, not because it makes them happy, but because it gives them something to chase, something to believe in. And yet, deep down, we all know the truth. No matter how fast you run, you will never outrun the feeling of emptiness inside you, because the problem was never that you hadn't achieved enough. The problem was the belief that you needed to achieve anything to be enough. The ego will tell you, if you just reach that next step, then you'll finally be at peace. But peace is not in the next step. It's in the step you're taking right now, not in the future, not in the next achievement, but in this moment, because everything you've been looking for has been within you all along. And when you truly see this, not just as an idea, but as a lived experience, the chase ends, not because you have given up, but because you have finally arrived. There is another side to existence, one that is so often overlooked, yet it holds everything we are truly searching for. It has nothing to do with achieving, proving, or becoming. It is the state of simply being. Eckhart Tolle calls it presence. It is the space between thoughts, the silence behind the noise, the awareness that exists beneath all the mental activity. It is the part of you that is already whole, already complete, already at peace. And yet for most of us, this space is rarely noticed because we are too distracted, too caught up in the world of movement, achievement, and external validation. From the moment we wake up, our minds are already reaching for something, scrolling through our phones, checking emails, thinking about what needs to be done. Even in moments of quiet, we aren't truly still. We are somewhere else, planning, worrying, replaying the past, imagining the future. We exist almost entirely in our heads, lost in a constant stream of thoughts. And because of this, we forget something essential. Being is enough, not because we have done enough, not because we have proven ourselves, but because the essence of who we are was never incomplete to begin with. But how often do we actually stop and realize this? How often do we allow ourselves to simply be? The fear of stillness. For many, the idea of stillness is uncomfortable. We are so used to doing, achieving, and thinking that the idea of stopping, even for a moment, feels unnatural. Try this. Sit in silence for just 1 minute. No phone, no distractions, no mental planning. Just be. What happens? For most people, the mind immediately starts looking for something to do. Thoughts arise. Restlessness creeps in. The urge to check something, fix something, accomplish something. Because somewhere deep inside, we've been conditioned to believe that if we are not doing something, we are wasting time. But what if the opposite was true? What if, in constantly seeking and striving, we are missing the most important thing of all? What if the very thing we are looking for is found only when we stop looking? The power of presence. Imagine this. You are walking through a forest. The air is crisp. The sound of birds in the distance, the gentle rustling of leaves under your feet. You are surrounded by the pure presence of nature, where nothing is rushing, nothing is striving, nothing is trying to be more than it is. The trees do not question whether they are growing fast enough. The river does not wonder if it is flowing in the right direction. Everything simply is. And in that stillness, there is a deep intelligence at work. Life unfolds effortlessly, not because it is being controlled, but because it is in harmony with the present moment. Now imagine carrying that same presence into your own life. What if you could move through your day without feeling the need to constantly rush to the next moment? What if instead of living in your mind, you actually experienced life directly as it is? This is what Eckhart Tolle teaches. the practice of presence, not a presence that needs to be created, but one that is always there, beneath the noise. All you have to do is notice it. Finding stillness in everyday life. Stillness is not about withdrawing from the world. It is not about sitting in meditation for hours or escaping into solitude. It is about bringing awareness into everything you do. Right now, as you read these words, there is an awareness inside of you, something that is watching, listening, noticing. That awareness is who you truly are, not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your past or future. Just this moment. Try this. The next time you are in a conversation with someone, be fully present. Don't think about what you will say next. Don't let your mind wander. Just listen. Feel the stillness behind the words. Notice the silence between sentences. See if you can sense the being of the other person, not just their words, but their presence. And something amazing will happen. You will feel more alive than ever before, because true aliveness is not in the mind. It is in presence. It is in stillness. And it has always been there, waiting for you to notice. Life is movement. Life is action. Life is an unfolding process that does not stop. So does this mean we should stop setting goals? Stop creating, stop working towards something? Not at all. The question is not whether you should act, but where your action is coming from. For most people, action is driven by fear, by lack, by a deep and unspoken belief that I am not enough yet. It's why people wake up every morning already feeling behind. It's why so many of us rush through life, always thinking, once I accomplish this, then I can finally relax. But the reality is, if you don't know how to be at peace now, you won't know how to be at peace later. Because the same mind that tells you, I need to reach this goal to be happy, will move the goalpost again and again. But what if you could act without seeking something outside yourself? What if you could create not from a place of lack, but from a place of fullness? This is the difference between conscious creation and unconscious striving. One is rooted in presence, the other is rooted in ego. When you act from ego, you are never truly here. You are always focused on the outcome, always measuring your progress, always questioning, am I there yet? But when you act from presence, you are free. You are fully engaged in the moment, not because you need it to take you somewhere, but because you have already arrived. And this changes everything. Take an artist, for example. An artist who paints because they love to create, who gets lost in the colors, in the movement, in the sheer joy of the process, will naturally create something beautiful. But an artist who paints because they want recognition, because they need to prove something, because they are chasing success, will never be fully satisfied. Their mind will be in the future, in how others will perceive their work, in whether or not they will be good enough. The first artist creates from presence. The second artist creates from lack. And this is true for everything in life, not just art, not just work, but every single thing we do. Are you acting from a place of already being enough? Or are you acting to try and become enough? This is the difference between freedom and suffering. Because when you are rooted in presence, you don't lose yourself in the process of achieving. You don't become consumed by the outcome. You act, but you remain connected to the part of you that is already whole. And this is where true fulfillment is found. Most of the suffering in life does not come from what happens to us. It comes from our resistance to what happens. A situation unfolds, and immediately, the mind begins to argue, this shouldn't be happening. This is unfair. This person should be different. The mind is constantly in battle with reality. But here's the truth. Reality does not care about your opinion. It simply is. The more you resist what is, the more suffering you create for yourself. Imagine you're standing in a river. The water is flowing strongly in one direction. You can fight against the current, pushing with all your strength, exhausting yourself, getting nowhere. Or you can stop resisting. You can let go, not giving up, but allowing yourself to move with life instead of against it. This is what Eckhart Tolle means by surrender. Surrender does not mean passivity. It does not mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you stop fighting reality. Because once you stop fighting, you see clearly. You stop reacting blindly. You stop wasting energy on things you cannot control. And you begin to move with life instead of against it. Think about the moments in your life when you have suffered the most. Was the pain not amplified by your own inner resistance? By the story your mind created about how things should be different? But what if you let go of those thoughts? What if, instead of arguing with the present moment, You accepted it, not as defeat, but as clarity. Because here's what happens when you stop resisting. You find something unexpected. Peace. Peace does not come from controlling life. It comes from aligning with life. And once you do, life begins to flow in a way you never imagined. Imagine going through life without constantly seeking. Imagine setting goals, but not attaching your happiness to them. Imagine facing challenges, but not suffering because of them. This is what happens when you align with presence. You still move, you still act, you still create, but you are not lost in the movement. You still set goals, you still manifest, you still shape your life, but you don't believe fulfillment lies in the future because you realize something profound. The thing you've been chasing was never outside of you. It was always here, in this moment, in this breath, in this stillness. And when you understand this, not just intellectually but deeply, you stop searching because you have arrived. And ironically, that is when life begins to flow effortlessly. When you are no longer seeking, you are finally free because you are no longer a prisoner of the mind. You are no longer chasing something that was never missing in the first place. You are no longer waiting to live. You are simply here, and here is everything.